On this edition of Stay Relevant, his father found fortune as a sculptor, but he made his name in special effects and set design. Now, Eric Supensky wants to try his hand at acting. What's his motivation? Will he find success? And what's all this talk about burning boats?
I'm ready to get out of this town in about 2 years.
Hang on, because here it comes.
It's one small step for man. Everything is going.
Welcome to Stay Relevant, my wandering conversations with interesting people. I'm Mike Savola.
Neil, this is Houston. We're copying. The Eagle has landed.
And with me today is Eric Supensky, an artist.
Yes.
You actually started out as a child actor somewhat, right? Didn't your first acting gig, wasn't it like at 8 in elementary school or something?
I grew up in an arts and entertainment family, so I was always exposed to art in many forms, whether it's, sculpting, painting, theater. So it's really all I've ever known. And so I've had opportunities as a more of a teen to do some acting. So that's kind of where the acting kind of touched initially.
So you weren't like buddies with Ron Howard or anything?
No.
Or Clint Howard? You're more like Clint Howard, probably.
But no, so those were the opportunities. But I gravitated more to behind the scenes, the sets, props, effects, makeup. That's what really drew my attention initially.
Yeah, because you've done a lot of special effects stuff. That's what your company was kind of founded on?
Correct.
I mean, SFX.
Yes.
EricSFX.com. Well, let's see. Let's go back a little bit. You went to Towson University. A lot of my friends went there.
Correct.
You're from Baltimore, or that area. Recently, were you born
Still
there?
up there. Born there.
Yeah. So you are from there.
Yeah.
And you went to Towson. You studied fine arts, and you still managed to be able to make a living. Amazing.
Well, that comes from my father because, he is an artist and a sculptor, international artist. And, he would say to me, there's no such being a starving artist is a choice. You choose to starve.
That's a nice thing to say if you're an established artist, but when you're trying to make it, how can you choose to starve? I don't know.
I think for him it was, literally learning how to combine a business aspect with the art. And too many times artists are so involved in their art and that's all they eat, drink, and sleep, which is great. But you have to look at the business end of the world because that's where the money is. So if you can manage to combine those two things and at least have an understanding of how it works, then you'll do more eating.
It's not like, I'm an artist. I can't come down to that level and commercialize my art kind of thing. You learn how to incorporate your art into everything. How to make money on it, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So that's kind of where that all stemmed from.
And what did he do?
Sculptor.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And again, between his art, his installations, teaching, books, he applied the business aspect to all of it and made money.
Now, you did something also in, this was kind of freaky, I was reading about it on your website. 2009, you did a replica of dead Edgar Allen Poe.
Yes.
How was that?
It was a blast.
That was for some kind of Poe funeral recreation.
Yeah, the city wanted to throw for his anniversary a proper funeral. I got a call and said, "Is this something you would like to do?" And I said, "Absolutely." It then came down to the research, and I love the whole process of, learning more, studying about what you're working on, the history of it, and then, there you are sculpting this body, which then goes on display, and people for days are able to come in and go through that process of viewing him, which was nice when I started hearing that it was freaking people out to see him, which again tells me I did a good job in presenting him dead. The crazy thing about Poe is there's not one look. Some busts and some famous sculpts kind of look like this, photographs kind of look like that. So there was, trying to find that range of what was going to be the most acceptable. But then it also, you had to take into consideration how he was going to be viewed. Someone dead, there's a difference. Again, all the sculpts, all the photographs, he's alive.
You don't want him to look too alive. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So there was all of these things that take into consideration about how I was going to present him dead, that he still looked like him, but dead.
But you don't want him to look too dead.
Correct.
So it's kind of a weird thing to do. You did one sculpture. It wasn't quite right, and you kind of redid it. How did that work?
Yeah, essentially, again, trying to relieve some of the stress that can occur in trying to do this. Just basically punched him in the face, and he's made out of clay. And then just kind of started over. And then again, it was, you sculpt it. You sculpt him looking at him straight on. And then there was a point where I literally just laid him on his side and just started sculpting from the side until I was happy.
What do you like about the fine arts and that kind of artwork and doing that? Sculpting, painting, set building?
Yeah, it's hard. I can't say I have a favorite because I love all of it. All of it has its own challenges. And I think ultimately, through all of them, what I love the most is something I've not done before. Stretching my limits, because again, I love that challenge of doing it. So.
And tell me about acting now. You're kind of moving into a different stage in your life, I think. As we mentioned before, you did some child acting, sort of, but this is really. It seems like you're really making a push towards acting now. Is that something you want to do more of? Is it something you're really getting serious into?
Absolutely. I wanted a new challenge and I wanted to stay in the business of arts and entertainment because I love it. It's all that I know. And acting made the most sense because in a lot of ways it's the scariest, because you have really the least control over what you're doing on every step of the process, from casting, from being cast to auditioning to then performing the role. There's so many other variables and so many other things that interact with you that it can be frightening.
Well, I've heard also from some actors that when you're least in control is when they feel the most creative. Do you sort of feel that way, or?
It pushes you out of your comfort zone. And because you always have a preconceived idea of what you're going to do, even if you try not to. You try and come into things blank and open and willing to accept whatever. There's still something in your head that has formulated something about what you're going to bring to the table, because you need that. It's comforting. I know I'm going to show up on set, and I'm going to bring this and it's going to be great. But you get there and things change and there's that rush of, okay, although I was comfortable with something that I've kind of created in my head, now I'm being pushed in another direction. So here we go. And it forces you to open up, relax, and bring that creativity. Otherwise, you're just going to crash and burn.
It sounds like, though, you really have to be comfortable with being an actor and being comfortable and confident in your skills to be able to do that.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to prepare for something and be prepared and, know that you've got the part and you think you can do it. But then being thrown a curve and saying, oh, can you run with it? I mean, I couldn't do that. I mean, I could do it as a producer, as a director, but that's totally different. As an actor, I don't know, it just seems so out of, the lack of control.
And therein lies the challenge and why I went this direction, because of what you just said, because of the daily test on set with yourself as a human being and what you can do. Because keep in mind, 20 plus years behind the camera, you get to learn other trades. I understand lighting fully and completely. I could again, I'm not saying I'm a master at these things, but I could handle lighting. Fundamentally, I can operate a camera, and I understand, framing and why the camera, and sound, same thing. Again, not a master in any of these, but 20 years behind the camera and working with great people, you pick these skills up and you understand. And I think that is probably, outside of, trying to be prepared as an actor and showing up on set, I think it's all that experience with those disciplines that comforts me, is that technically I don't need to worry about the lighting, the sound, the camera. I instinctually know as an actor where I need to look, what I need to do, what everyone is expecting of me. So that element is gone for me, and then all I have to focus on is that character and what is needed in that moment to be presented to the camera. So I think that helps a little bit, but it's still, again, it's the excitement of it all.
Have you taken acting lessons?
I
did
do
you
have
learn this?
I do have an acting coach who's great, and I read. I've taken the advice of people in this business that I respect that are, they're where I want to be. It really comes down to then practicing, because you don't get a chance to be, or many of us don't get a chance to be on set every day, all day, whether it's in a TV series or, shooting for 3 months straight on a film, So it really comes down to, are you willing to put the work in yourself that no one sees, which is something that I love to do. It's another part of what I love to do. I love finding monologues, scenes in movies or plays or whatever it is, and then going down into my home studio and rehearsing them, practicing them. I self-tape, because that's really where it all happens. You take what you've read, you take what you've been told, and you apply it in practice, quotation marks, which is, I think, a lot of folks that I'm meeting and talking to out in the field today don't do. They kind of overlook that. They don't see that necessarily as work. That's where all the work is.
Right.
Is in that homework. It's in that practice that no one ever sees.
It sounds like, but it seems like what you're doing, it has been very easy. Because all of a sudden it's like, I know Eric, the set builder, the painter, the sculptor, the artist, and wow, Eric's, oh look, he's doing this little side thing. Oh look, Eric's got another job. Eric's got this. And now you're on set with Natalie Portman. Mm-hmm. You're doing VEEP, you're doing Making of the Mob, you're in a NASCAR documentary, and I don't know what else you're doing, but you're all of a sudden you're exploding. So you must be doing it right. But there are a lot of actors around who have been acting a long time in this town, who aren't as busy as you are, and you basically just started, what, a year ago, 2 years ago?
A little over a year.
Yeah. It's pretty phenomenal from my point of view, and it sounds like you've hit the nail on the head. Is that a lot of it has to do with preparation, taking it seriously as a job, and saying, this is what I'm doing now.
You have to fully commit. There's no question, and it is challenging to do so. If you want to make $1 million, don't ask someone who's broke. Ask a millionaire, because they've done it. So after talking to, again, people in the business that I respect, who are successful, who are where I want to be, that is really the advice that I took, that I listened to, that I brought in, that I digested, and then I had to apply it to my life and to myself, because there's no one path into this. There really isn't. Look, I'm a single father, raising kids on my own, and you got a 16-year-old boy, a 13 or 14, she just turned 14-year-old girl, and a 4-year-old boy. Wow. So plate, hands full. So how do you do this? It started with finances. What are we spending?
So you anticipated not making money for a while.
And brother, we took out the sword and we swung axes. And so it was not only something that needed to be done for me to be successful as an actor, but it was an opportunity to not just run my gums at my kids about, this is how you live life. No, it was an example. And we did it together. So they understand. It's, again, economics is not something that you're taught. You have to live it. You have to experience it. So it was, again, everything we've done, I said, look, here's an experience. Here's an experience. And it's gonna hurt a little bit, because we got to tighten the belt and we got to do this. But at the end of the day, what I've discovered is my kids have responded positively to it. They're learning great lessons, and you know what? They got over it.
What if somebody who actually is trying to break in, they're very serious about it, and they really want to make a living at this, and they think they may be good? What would you tell them, first of all? Tell them to take an acting class? Tell them, what do you think are the most important, maybe top 3 things that they should do, in your opinion?
This kind of occurred recently. It was actually on the set of Jackie, and I was a little scared when I kind of heard that they actually followed my advice. Because I'm comfortable taking the risks that I take. I'm comfortable because it's me. If you follow what I've done, you're going to take risks. And I think the fear for me is I don't want to be responsible because I'm afraid someone's going to say, you ruined my life because I followed your advice and I did these things and all of a sudden this is what it gave me. Where really what I'm trying to say is listen to what I have to say. Mine is not the only answer. It's not the only road. It's just mine. And if you can take something from it and use it, great, but you need to own the results. The results are not mine, even though it's something that I'm doing that you may try and emulate. The results are yours. Again, I've done some drastic things to be where I am, and economically is one of them. And, moving to a new location, I'm ready to get out of this town in about 2 years. I'm looking at Atlanta. I mean, there's 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plans in the making here. And some of the choices and sacrifices are bold. So if you're going to follow what I'm doing, you're going to do it. You need to own the results.
It seems like you're saying this is a framework.
Yes.
Here's what I did, and if you can take something away from it, if you can look at your life, it sounds like you need to examine yourself and see what you can do, what you can change to give yourself the best chance. That's what I hear coming across without you saying specifically do this. You need to figure out what these things are for you and how they apply.
Yes. Because again, we're all different. We're all coming from different places. We all have different assets and liabilities, different strengths, different weaknesses, and I use the term, and this is kind of where it got me, is I use the term when I'm having this discussion with somebody. I said, listen, I think the biggest part of my drive and success is that once I made up my mind that this is what I was going to focus on fully, I burned my boats. It's the sentence, I burned my boats, which means you're not going to take the island if you've got boats to retreat on. You burn those boats, you're either going to die trying to take the island or you're going to take the island. But really, I think the underlying thing to my framework, to the frameworks that I looked at from folks that I asked these questions to, the kernel is your determination. You have to literally be hell-bent on this, and then at the same time, you have to let go of everything and not care, if that makes any sense, about the results, because so much of this you have no control over. I've got to do everything I can to multiply my opportunities, because all I really want is the opportunity to audition. That's all I want. That's all I'm ever asking for. Let me come in and audition. Here's my headshot. Here's other photographs. Here's my reel. You take a look at it. You tell me. No one's ever, come back to me and said, no. All I've really ever got, will you shave? Will you cut your hair? Will you grow your hair? Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're in now. You just finished a few days on the set of Jackie with
Yes.
Natalie Portman.
Yes.
And a couple of local actors, I believe, Don Watley and David DuBois, Rick Burke. So that's pretty cool. You were Sergeant Shriver. How was that experience?
It was wonderful because, obviously working with Peter Sarsgaard and Natalie Portman, they're great people, and it was an opportunity to get to know them as people. The thing you love the most is when you're constantly reminded that we're all just people, they're people, and hopefully they're good people.
Well, that's part of I'm thinking that's part of the process, is to get to that point where you're not thinking, oh my God, this is Natalie Portman, because you can't.
No one likes a fanboy on set. That experience was wonderful. They're talented people. They're very nice people. They've got a great sense of humor. Working with them directly was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. But the biggest thing for me with Shriver was now becoming SAG eligible. Okay, well, if I'm going to compete nationally, truly, and look for roles in television shows and opportunities in movies, I need to become union. You don't just knock on a door and go, hey, I want to join your union. It doesn't work that way. So that, to me, was the biggest bonus. The most exciting part of that opportunity was that automatically made me must join. So that process has begun.
I'm kind of the mind that any actor, any production person that is really trying to make it big, they gotta leave DC. They gotta go to New York. They gotta go to LA. You mentioned Atlanta. North Carolina is a big hub of production for movies and stuff. I guess Canada too, but we won't mention that. How true is that? I mean, is it just different for everybody, or what do you think?
Traditionally, people will tell you, boy, you got to go to New York. Boy, you got to go to L.A. You got to be there. And there's truth to that. And I understand it, because if that's where, the work is happening, you've got to be accessible. You call for an audition, you got to go, you got to show up. I get it. But albeit slowly, things are changing. And I'm embracing the change because it benefits me and it works, and I've made it work. For like $50, you can create a little corner studio in your home, set up your iPhone or whatever, and self-tape is amazing. And more folks are allowing you to audition through that self-tape process, which now kind of erases that old adage of you got to be there, you got to be there.
Well, to a certain degree.
Correct.
Because, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of roles where it's like, hey, can you come down today? You have to be available. There's a lot of stuff that they may not consider out-of-town actors for, I'm thinking. You have to show up in the office of your agent. You have to find an agent. It just the face-to-face just is something that I think helps.
No question, it does. But what I'm sensing is the easiest thing to do is let's do a general self-tape, and that way we can weed through the majority of folks. Instead of having them come in our office, you've already kind of done a process with it. Then we'll narrow it down, and then the folks that we think are really going to have a chance, then we'll bring them in. That, again, tends to be where things are shifting to, and you better believe I will make myself available for that process, and have.
So you're in the union, or you're in the process of joining
Correct.
the union, which was a big step, you said, and kind of on your plan or your decision list. Mm-hmm. What's the next step after that?
Once I officially become union, obviously, it will kind of erase the majority of what I've been doing in Baltimore, D.C., Richmond, because the majority of that has been non-union, which has been exactly what I needed to start. Got to build a resume, got to have a reel, got to be able to act, right, and show people you can act. So now that I've pretty much worked my way through and maximized all that, that goes away. That leaves me right now with a tentative meeting in New York with the William Morris Agency. So I am confident that my experience in New York with the agency is going to be positive, and they will at least, in the minimum, give me a 90-day free trial kind of thing. Literally where, you know what, we're going to check each other out for 90 days and see how this works out. And if it works out, then we'll sign you to a yearly contract or whatever. Again, that's all I need. Give me a chance. I'll show you. Give me the opportunities. I'll surprise you.
Now, I want to touch on something that you mentioned, believing in yourself. I know when I moved to New York as a young producer, it's more than believing in yourself. I thought it was visualizing it. It's not this crazy thing of like, oh, you've got a dream and I can see the dream. It's really hard for somebody who hasn't visualized it. It's really hard to explain, but you believe it with every fiber of your being.
Absolutely.
And it becomes a part of you. And because of that, everything you do is towards that goal. And when I went to New York, that's how I felt. And it empowered me so much. And it seems like that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And maybe you do this, and maybe I am just a freak. But literally, every night I go to bed, I do what I'm going to do tomorrow in my head. Does that make sense? You
rehearse your plan. You know what you're going to do the next day.
Correct.
You think about it and you run through it.
What are the scenes tomorrow? I've read the scenes that we're going into. Again, how much can I put into it without locking myself into it and staying flexible? So in my again, I'm going through all this, and as I'm laying down, it's just total commitment and focus on what it is you're trying to achieve, and being grateful for all of it, even if it doesn't work out.
How difficult is it to start over every time? You mentioned there was a good point that you had that now that you're union, all that non-union stuff goes away. That you're basically starting from zero. How does that feel?
I'm as excited to take this next step into the world of being a union actor as I was the day I decided to focus fully on acting. That same excitement of, I don't know shit, you know what I mean? But I'm gonna go into this face first, and I don't care if I fail. I'm just gonna go in there. I'm gonna enjoy every moment, because each of those moments I know are gonna lead me in the direction that I wanna go. What I've decided that I want to do, and that I love to do, and that excites me the most, is work with talented people. Like Titans, working on American Titans. I can't tell you how exciting it was, and every day built, because I knew, again, Christ, I get to work with these guys again tomorrow. I get to work with them again tomorrow. I get to work with them again. And then it was over, and it was like, oh my God, I hope we get to work together again. It's not working. It's playing.
You should be a motivational speaker. It's very.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
You've had those. And then by the same token, you've worked with people, as I have, and you look at them and you go, son, you realize that you could be doing something much worse for a living, but you're getting paid to play and make believe, but you're still some miserable son of a bitch. Why? If it's that miserable, go somewhere else. How do you lose that excitement, that enthusiasm for what we're doing? I don't get it. So,
tell me what the future holds for you, just briefly.
I see that I have accomplished all the things that I wanted to accomplish to become an actor who has the opportunity to work more often than not and make a living at doing it. Whether that's I get to make a movie a year, I'm on a television show, a mini series. I don't care what that is, as long as I'm able to do it. And that's what I see. Clearly, no question.
Well, it sounds like a plan. It sounds like a good plan. Thank you for coming, Eric Supensky, artist, actor. It's been great.
Appreciate you having me, Mike. And again, I appreciate that initial opportunity years ago to create Label Man. It's where it all began.
Thank you. My guest has been special effects guru turned actor Eric Supensky. That's Eric with a C and Supensky with a Y. I know, it's confusing. Visit his website at ericsupensky.com for his reel, bio, headshot, and more. The podcast is Stay Relevant, wandering conversations with interesting people. Original music by Popmark Media on the web at popmarkmedia.com. See and hear more on my website at mikesabola.com. Until next time, try and stay relevant.